October 15th. This one speaks for itself. It's all this stuff I've been saying for years and decades, even. The connection between Disney and Satanic Agenda and Aleister Crowley.
For sharing this. This is how bad it's getting, folks. The newest garbage from Disney is called Little Demon. And as you can see, this show premiered in Canada and the US on August 25th, 2022, and in European countries, Australia, and New Zealand on September 21st. Even on Google's question page, when asking if this is okay for kids, we see that they say it's definitely not for family viewing. As you can see, this show normalizes Satanism and all sorts of other filth. But thank God it's been canceled in the US. That's a start, I guess. We read that it's all about Satan getting a gal pregnant, and the daughter is the Antichrist. And of course, the theme song for this is Sympathy for the Devil. It's really twisted because Satan gives this girl powers to do stuff like fighting bullies in school. So what's the message? Satan's a good guy and your buddy. Another thing is that when Satan finds out his child is a girl, he says the future is female, which is also pushing another agenda. It makes light of blood sacrifice rituals and promotes them as being fun to take part in. Not to mention that it's full of satanic symbolism, every swear in the book, and does everything possible to make everything Satanism represents seem normal and acceptable. A Bible verse comes to mind, Isaiah 5:20. Woe to those who call evil good and good evil, who put darkness for light and light for darkness, who put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. In one scene, she explains that she didn't mean to kill a bunch of teens, and Satan says not to let other people's moral laws make her think what she did was wrong, and that together they can build a future without rules, where she can call her own shots and live the life she wants to live. Sounds a lot like Aleister Crowley's Do What Thou Wilt Shall Be the Whole of the Law. I'll leave a link to this article in the description below because this short video goes into more detail on how twisted the creators of this actually are. He goes into detail on how they've actually made cartoons of adults abusing babies. This is sick, my friends, and just shows how disgusting this world has gotten. 50 years ago, there's no way stuff like this would have been allowed. My recommendation is that if you are in one of the countries where this show is being played, then do what you can to have it taken off the air, because with today's technology, kids are going to watch this and be influenced by this filth.
Okay, so let's go to a few little things here. Notes after the little demon. This it's all connected, but I don't want to draw the connections right away. Vatican insider Dr. Malachi Martin has said that, based on a message of Mary and a personal visitation, John Paul believes there will come a day when the heart of Islam, already attuned to the figures of Christ and of Christ's mother Mary, will receive the illumination it needs, a second Fatima, in which they will recognize him as God's vicar on earth. Then, with fellow travelers like the Church of England, the Episcopal Church, and others of like mind, the Pope could be worshipped as the infallible Holy Father by over one half of the world's population or more. Let's move forward. This is Walter Veith, Seventh day Adventist from South Africa. Here's a nice little chart. Origin of the secret societies, the ancient mystery religions, Kabbalism, that was Duchamp and Man Ray, and Duchamp's Freemason sponsor, Walter Ahrensberg. All the societies intersect. Gnosticism, the Gnostic Gospels that Elaine Pagels is a disciple of, and Thomas Keating, the Benedictine monks out in Colorado, Knights Templars, the Rosicrucians, that's Duchamp and Man Ray, that's, what's his bloody name again? Oh yeah, Aleister Crowley. The Illuminati is founded by Adam Weishaupt. So they all intersect, and they all go right directly into what down here at the bottom, the New Age movement. All the New Age religions can be traced back through time, to the ancient Egyptian mystery religion, the Illuminati with the pyramid. It's ubiquitous now. If you can't see it, you're wearing blinders, like in what's his name, David Bowie, in his last album, Black Star. He's got surgical masks on. He's dying of liver cancer. He was a Crowley disciple when he was a Thelemite under the Crowley religion. He's wearing Egyptian headdresses. He weighs 97 pounds. And in Black Star, he's invoking Satan. And the lyrics all reference the serpent. There's the women on their knees in the circle. It's threaded throughout the entire music video. There's nothing hidden about the symbolism. There's 3 crosses with figures crucified on it. Mockery of Christ and mockery of Christ and mockery of Christ. So let's go forward. Here we are. Christianity and the secret societies. The Jesuits are the military wing of you can see them, I'm in the way down here. It's right here, behind described. The Jesuits align with Freemasonry, the Gnostics, Templars, and Rosicrucians all align. The bank is Weishaupt. Kabbalism, the Essenes, it's at the same time as Christ. Islamic societies, get into that in a minute. The Druze, all of these still exist. And the assassins were the Hashishin from the Old Man in the Mountain that William Burroughs was always on about, because Burroughs comes from this, Ginsberg, Kerouac, all of the Eastern mysticism that comes in the 50s through D.T. Suzuki, Krishnamurti. Aldous Huxley is out in Hollywood with Christopher Isherwood, who came from Berlin, and the decadent Berlin. Cabaret, the film, is based on Isherwood's writings. What's Cabaret but the same dark, occult, satanic forces? George Gross is there. George Gross is a communist. He's a Stalinist. It's communism versus fascism, but it's 2 sides of the same world domination religion fighting against each other for supremacy. In a nutshell, I always want to breeze through it. Here's the assassins. Degrees of the assassins were thus as follows. First, the Grand Master, known as Sheikh al-Jabal. I've heard his name pronounced differently, but that's okay. Or the Old Man of the Mountain. Hassan al-Sabah, I think, is what Burroughs called him. Second, the Dali Kabir. I trust Walter by. Second, the Dali Kabir of Grand Priors. Third, the fully initiated Dais. Fourth, the Rafiqs or associates. Fifth, the Fadiyas or devoted. Sixth, the Lasiks or law brothers. And lastly, the common people, who are to be simply blind instruments. And that's the cattle people. We're the cattle people, the sheep, and these are the wolves in sheep's clothing. And the name assassins comes from hashishin. Hashish was the hallucinogenic drug used for mind control, to turn the followers of the Old Man of the Mountain into his willing murderers, terrorists, assassins. Designs against religion were, of course, not admitted by the order. Strict uniformity to Islam was demanded from all the lower rank of uninitiated, but the adept was taught to see through the deception of faith and works. See, everything is inverted. Christ is evil, Satan is good. Just like in the Little Demon film by Walt Disney, Christ is evil. You're not allowed to be free under Jesus Christ. And that's all deception, because there is no Jesus Christ and there is no hell. He believed in nothing and recognized that all acts or means were indifferent, and the secular end alone to be considered. The secular end meaning just go for it, just do it. There is no afterlife. There are no consequences. Grab all the gusto. You're an army of one. No fear. Yeah, take enough drugs and you have no fear. And it's a thrill ride. That's the Charlie Manson technique that comes from Scientology, Jim Jones, you name it. Anyway, let's see. It's been a long day. Secular. Thus, by the lure of paradise, the assassins enlisted instruments for their criminal work and established a system of organized murder. In other words, it's the equivalent of the mafia that controls Hollywood, the mafia that controls Las Vegas, the mafia that delivers the vote, the mafia of Joseph P. Kennedy, the mafia of Whitey Bulger and the FBI agent, Catholic FBI agent, who, using Whitey Bulger as an informant, would give Whitey Bulger information about what witnesses were in the witness protection plan, so Whitey could bump them off. That's this ruling elite that are all powerful, but those are just the minor players in the larger realms of the satanic. Nothing is true and all is allowed was the ground of their secret doctrine. And Aleister Crowley adapts that to whatever thou wilt. That the whole of the law. Do what thou wilt. Nothing is true. Isn't that the postmodern credo of the Foucaults and the Baudrillard? There is no truth. It's morally relative. It's your point of view. It's shades of gray. There are no absolute truths. It's just who has the power. That's postmodernism. There's the one thing that I completely disagree with Jordan Peterson, for everybody calling him a genius. He doesn't see this at all. He thinks Foucault's a genius. He thinks Foucault and Freud, they have really interesting ideas. Those are the only idea Michel Foucault has, or Derrida, or Barth, or any of the Herbert Marcuse and Freud. Their idea is nothing is true and all is allowed. It's no more complicated than that. Who is complicated is the Bible. Jordan Peterson should really try reading the Bible. He could really learn something from it. Anyway, being imparted but to the few and concealed under the veil of the most austere religionism and piety, restrained the mind under the yoke of blind obedience. He's reading, you get Jung, somebody go into Jung and you just go off to the other planet. And Jung, at the end of his life, came around to believing in God. And he also came around to believing in the Judeo-Christian God. But meanwhile, he's a Kabbalist. Meanwhile, he's having affairs with his patient, one of Freud's patients, Sabina Spielrein. Meanwhile, he's involved with all this magical occult practice and German mysticism, and he's Swiss. What's going on in Switzerland at the moment? Not to impugn any particular nationality. I'm just talking about the location in Switzerland is where LSD was found. It's the birthplace of Dadaism in Zurich, and surrealism, and the futurism of fascism. Futurists became fascists. Lenin and James Joyce, the modernists, were all there. You can go on and on. I'll just make these connections, and I'll keep hammering at them until somebody gets them. The Fatimites, the founder of the Fatimite dynasty of the Caliphs, was one Ubaydallah, known as the Mahdi. Societies of wisdom were instituted in Cairo, Dar ul Hikmat, or the House of Knowledge, by the sixth Khalifa Hakim, who was raised to a deity after his death and is worshipped today by the Druze militia. Under the direction of Dar ul Hikmat, or Grand Lodge of Cairo, the Grand Lodge, it's a Masonic, secret lodges, secret orders. The Fatimites are continued the plan of Abdullah ibn Mamun's secret society with the addition of 2 more degrees, making 9 in all. Their method of enlisting proselytes and the system of initiation, which, as Claudio Janet points out, are absolutely those which Adam Weishaupt, the founder of the Illuminati, practiced. There's our man. Who's this? The Ayatollah. Where was the Ayatollah? Where did the Ayatollah plot his comeback from? But Paris. The French give a home to the great Islamic revolution, and the intersection. And where's Paris? That's where the dawn of the magicians are, and Maoists like Jean-Luc Godard and Agnes Varda and Jim Morrison showing up on his heroin, and Brechtian Kurt Weill whiskey song. That's all from the George Gross period. And he goes back to where else but Arthur Rimbaud and the derangement of the senses. Same thing. And demonic possession. Morrison had demonic possession. His Doors companions talked about the 2 Morrisons. Jimbo was the sodomite, rapist, and sociopath, as he's described, not by myself, by read some biographies, read all the biographies, read Our Love Become a Funeral Pyre. That's where Morrison, for all my belief, he died from the French Connection heroin that's in the Popeye Doyle movie with Gene Hackman starring as Popeye Doyle. The connection is that an aristocrat was pushing that drug and having an affair at the same time with Pamela Corson, and Jim Morrison had made his will out to leave everything to Pamela Corson. And they're all doped up. I mean, they're completely living in the realm of the senseless. And so there's every motive for this aristocrat thinking he can grab up Pam Corson and dispatch Jim Morrison, who's already on the way to dispatching himself. But he wasn't a heroin user. That's what's in it. He's an alcoholic, not drinking beer all day and then knocking, just like Kerouac, he'd be knocking down a fifth of vodka or whatever in a bar and dies. Let's see who this is. That's Osama, that's Yasser Arafat, Saddam Hussein, Ayatollah, looks like. And around all these countries, World War III that we're in now, all the countries are in turmoil. They're rioting in Iran, they're rioting in China, they're rioting in Germany, they're rioting in Czechoslovakia, they're rioting in France. I think that America is like the most comatose country, but I don't think that's going to last. It's like low-level criminal gangs that are raging everywhere. It's aimless because people here are besotted with, they're drugged out and they're watching media and they're already having their mind controlled by the little demon Walt Disney, or in the churches with Animated Bible Project or any of this baby talk. like Jesus is Santa Claus, or there is no punishment, there is no day of wrath, there is no last judgment. Oh, that's for somebody else. It's certainly not for the mad bombers of Obama and George Bush and Joe Biden third Obama administration, and Victoria Nuland and Anthony Blinken. They're blowing up, Blinken idiot. It's blowing up pipelines, freezing to death people are going to die by the hundreds of thousands or millions in Europe this winter. Just like with the with Jeffrey Sachs, who's the president of Columbia University, who just resigned. Jeffrey Sachs, who also was the economic advisor who went to the Soviet Union after the wall fell and restructured their economy with Gorbachev. Sachs is saying, I could even find these and bring them up, but Sachs is saying that U.S. biotech lab developed the virus attributed, and we already know that the NIH was funding the labs. So this is a new world order government of complete chaos and anarchy and insanity, and it's run by the satanic forces that have been let loose on this earth for a period of time to wake people up to the fact that Jesus is coming and that Jesus is Lord and Savior and that Jesus is the only way, the truth, and the life. And the only way to the Father is through the Son, Jesus Christ. Otherwise, these are your companions. You can choose this. You can choose the people who arm them. Where do they get all their weapons? Where did this man get all his, not only his weapons, but his training? Who fought? Why was this man? There are 34 countries joined together to take out what? This little tin pot dictator who doesn't even have an air force? And Sweden's involved, and the Northern European countries, and 34 countries. Can you imagine that kind of alliance? Well, there's some power there. America was the dominant super world power, but now the whole NATO alliance is crumbling and crashing. It's built in to this satanic agenda for hundreds of millions of people to die. It's also biblical prophecy. Let me see. Well, I still have some energy left. The Bible is an indispensable part of the furniture of a Christian lodge, only because it is the sacred book of the Christian religion. The Hebrew Pentateuch in a Hebrew lodge, and the Quran and a Mohammedan one belong on the altar, and one of these and the square and the compass, properly understood, are the great lights by which a Mason must walk and work. I see that, you see the square and the compass everywhere. You see it along the highway. It doesn't mean that everybody in the lodge is part of the occult satanic hierarchy. They aren't. You only reach that level up at the 32nd and 33 degree. Once you get up to that level, and that would be the level where you see the Croleys and the John Lennons and the Oscar Wildes, all the people on the cover of Sgt. Pepper's, Tom Mix, the Bohemian Lodge, the ones who are multi-billionaires or multi-millionaires. You put the Clintons on that list. You put the Obamas on that list. Bidens are like low, they're getting huge payoff for being part of it. Always the same source in the heavenlies, the dark prince, the father of lies and a murderer, is the ultimate paymaster, and the ultimate punishment for this is the wages of sin is death, meaning the death of surrendering your soul and gaining as much of the world as you think you're entitled to. Deadly deception, 33-degree initiation ceremony. The oath is sealed by drinking wine out of a human skull. May this wine I now drink become a deadly poison to me as the hemlock juice drunk by Socrates. Should I ever knowingly or willfully violate the same. A member dressed as a skeleton places his arms around the candidate, who then states, and may these cold arms forever encircle me, should I ever knowingly or willfully violate the same. Violate the oath or ever give up a fellow brother who's involved, just like a mafia oath. Same oath, different form, different format. I'm going to take a break and get some, let's see, how far have I gone? Take a breather. All right, to continue, it is mankind which has become the serpent of Genesis, and thus causes daily and hourly the fall and sin of the celestial virgin, which thus becomes the mother of gods and devils at one and the same time. For she is the ever-loving, beneficent deity to all those who stir her soul and heart. The Earth Mother, the Goddess, the Mithra, the shadow of the unknown and incognizable deity in space. Gaia, but in the warrior princess, but in antiquity and reality. Lucifer or Luciferus is the name of the angelic entity presiding over the light of truth. See, in the Satanic, everything is reversed. Lucifer is the light, Christ is the darkness. Lucifer presides over the light of truth as over the light of the day. Madame Blavatsky, there's missing a T, that's Madame Blavatsky, the Russian mystic, secret doctrine. Lucifer is divine and terrestrial light. The Holy Ghost and Satan at one and the same time. Visible space being truly filled with the differentiated breath, invisible. They just go on with this garbage. Here, I'll go back to my source. This is a terrific book by somebody who's a crock, Georg Feuerstein, right? What this is mind control. What all of these gurus do is mind control. They make people lose their ego. You got to get rid of your ego. Yeah, so you have no ego. Give all your money to your guru so he can have his Rolex watches and his Rolls Royces, because he's transcended materialism. He has his private planes and his armed guards, and they make biochemical weapons in a lab in Oregon with Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh. So let me read from one of these Satanists, right? Psychologist Guy, and they're always psychologists. Psychologist Guy Claxton, formerly Swami Anand Ageha, just like Babaran Das, formerly psychologist Richard Alpert, just like the guru Mr. Tiny Tim Leary is a Harvard psychologist. And as soon as a psychologist takes LSD, they're an enlightened master, and they'll bring everybody to nirvana with them. You just have to drink your LSD and your Kool-Aid and take the acid test and go out to Guyana with Jim Jones and lose your ego. Follow your high priest. Or psychologist, even better. If there's anybody you don't want to follow and lose your ego to, it's your psychologist or your Sigmund Freud or your Jung or anyone else. Kids. A disciple of Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh, Guy Claxton, has found the image of the guru as teacher somewhat misleading. He offers these comments. The most helpful metaphor is that of a physician or a therapist. Yes, your guru is your physician. He can heal your mind. Enlightened masters are, we might say, the ultimate therapists. You'll find this in the Christian religion too. That I've seen all kinds of crackpots in Christianity. The same thing, the same dark liar, the same Luciferian dark spirit, the same Mariolatry in the Catholic Church. For they focus their benign attention, of course, not on problems on your behind. Their benign attentions on your behind is where uh, so much of where does so much of it end up with this sodomy ritual and sodomy rites that we find out about going on in Hollywood with all the enlightened masters, Polanski and Allen and Epstein and Weinstein? Why is the focus always the benign focus of these male predators? But it's also female. There's the Ghislaine Maxwell's. It doesn't matter. It's a call. I'm wake up. Don't be woke. Don't be awake, and just wake up to who you're following and what kind of crap you're listening to through Walt Disney, R. Crumb, S. Clay Wilson, bikers, Hell's Angels, yeah, Hunter Thompson, Johnny Depp, all of it, Jimmy Page, Lucifer Rising with Kenneth Anger, how about that, or Bobby Boussolet. It's all the same cult. For they focus their benign attention not on problems, but on the very root from which the problems spring, the problem sufferer and the solver himself. The master deploys his therapeutic tricks to one end, that of the exposure and dissolution of the fallacious self. What's the true self? Well, the true self is your third eye opening and your drawers going down, while you get a rectal probe from the aliens or from your enlightened master. His art is a subtle one because the illusion cannot be excised with a scalpel, dispersed with massage, or quelled with drugs. Except in Freud's case, he and his butcher Wilhelm Fleiss believed that the scalpel is what was needed for a female patient in her hallucinations about being sexually molested. So it was located in her nose. So they had a number of operations on the sinuses of this female patient of Freud's with Fleiss. This is, yeah, so, back in the old days, or they used lobotomy. The Kennedy family had one of their children lobotomized. You don't want a mentally retarded kid who's associated with all these geniuses. So you just lobotomize them, or you give them some kind of tranquilizing pills, send them off to, they're just not genetically, they're genetically inferior to the patriarchs. His art is a subtle one. Oh, here it is. His art is a subtle one because the illusions cannot be excised with a scalpel, dispersed with massage, or quelled with drugs. Oh, and I've never seen any of these William Burroughs or Ginsbergs or, all these other enlightened beings. Never seen them go near drugs. They're just naturally enlightened without any of the ayahuasca or yage or speedballs or amphetamines, cocktails or heroin. Yeah, William S. Burroughs never touched a drug. He has to work at one. Who would actually read this stuff knowing anything about the biography of, take this stuff seriously, knowing the first thing about the personal histories of these drug addict, homosexual, shooting their wife in the head in Burroughs' case, using rent boys in Morocco. Oh, I don't have any money yet. We have enough money to go to Morocco and get 13-year-old male prostitutes. But there's nothing dissolute about that, or there's nothing depraved about being a sexual predator if you're an enlightened being. and you know how to use the right drugs and use these a scalpel like who's using a scalpel? How about the Black Dahlia murder, of which there are so many suspects because there's so many abortionists and quack doctors and mass murderers and mafia people. That's Bugsy Siegel was who killed the Black Dahlia, just like he killed Thelma Todd. It's in Kenneth Anger's book, The Thelma Todd Murder, but not who killed her, because Kenneth, you know, the people that are up high in the lodges and the orders, the 32, they don't tell any. They just hint. They use a lot of hints. But now a lot of it's coming out. I mean, it's been amazing to me. So much has been just mind-boggling revelations of who is behind the Jimmy Hoffa murder, for example. I mean, it's these are I'm waiting for the Kennedy assassination to come out, and we know that also that James Earl Ray wasn't the one who killed Martin Luther King. That's another story. He has to work at one remove by knocking away familiar props and habits and sustaining the seeker's courage and resolve through the fall. Only thus can the organism cure the organism, mysteries of the organism. Wilhelm Reich, mysteries of the orgasm, mysteries, I am curious yellow. Yes, we'll just go off with the Swedes, giving Barack Obama and Henry Kissinger the Nobel Peace Prize. Yeah, the Swedish Academy, they're real. They know what that the only way that peace can be won is when we blow them all to kingdom come, as Country Joe said back in the day. So the revolution. His techniques resemble those of the demolition expert. The metaphors are just perfectly appropriate. What comes to mind, of course, is the planned demolition of the World Trade Center buildings, right? I mean, one is hit. Why does the other one come down in perfect demolition order? It's a mystery, isn't it? The pipelines being blown, it's a mystery. I mean, who? I think it was a gas leak. I think it was an underground explosion. The same thing with the Turkish pipeline. Oh, how about that bridge? It must have been, I don't know, one of these chemical trucks or something. No, nobody plans any of this stuff at all. It just is a natural occurrence. Setting strategically placed charges to blow up the established superstructure of the ego. You can't make this stuff up. But kids are following this. I followed it when I was a kid. I'm trying to warn kids away from this. I don't know that anybody's listening because it's too intoxicating. I mean, once you're dropping acid every day, or fentanyl, or euphoria, or whatever the latest designer drugs are, which are so powerful compared to what I was using when I was and you never knew what you were going to get. Here it's like you can have pot and go off to the outer limits and the twilight zone, which is what so many people are. They think that you can take the journey to the center of your mind over and over again, and then that becomes reality. And there is no other real world, and that you can do as thou wilt, and you can end up a vegetable in an insane asylum like Nietzsche. That's not cool. Or Van Gogh, it's not cool. It's not cool that you go again with syphilis. None of it's cool. Rambo, it's not cool. Gun running is not cool. Gun running isn't cool to the, none of this stuff. Killing people isn't cool. Shooting each other, it's not cool. It's Satan. It's the dark reality, the dark lord. It's selling your soul. This is losing your ego. bullshit. This is selling your soul to the devil. This is, you're demolishing your ego but by submitting yourself to whatever sexual practices Rinpoche is practicing in, bullying and torture and everything, humiliation, sexual humiliation. That's what was going on in Boulder at the Dalai Lama, whatever incarnation of the Dalai Lama is practicing. W.S. Merwin, the poet, and his wife are there, and they have him take off his clothing. You put him through whatever intimidation, so he can lose his ego. Yeah, we should take the Dalai Lama out and whatever Rinpoche and lose his ego. This stuff is Madame Blavatsky, Gurdjieff, all of it. I say it as forcefully as I possibly can. I'm against them. They're the enemy. His techniques resemble those of the demolition expert, so that the ground may be exposed. Yet he has to work on each case individually, dismantling and challenging in the right sequence and at the right speed, using whatever the patient brings as his raw material for the work of the moment. Yeah, what they do is they abuse. It's like Erhard Seminar training or Primal Scream or whatever. They abuse people. They scream at them. It's like the DI in Kubrick shows it, because Kubrick's a 33-degree Mason. He shows it in Breaking Down a Marine Recruit. You lose your ego and you're tortured and tormented, and then he snaps and go off and kill them all, and let God sort them out is the training. So that's where we're at. As a society, we're falling to pieces in civil war and murder, and it's not bad people, it's people who are taken over by this sex, porn, drugs, rage, anger, destruction, and it's coming from this source. And the way, the truth, and the life is, I say, pick up the Holy Bible. There's so much. It's not comfort, it's instruction, it's wisdom. It's not solace. I go to the Lord for solace. No, you go to the Lord to put on your spiritual armor so you can resist the temptation of this and fight against these evil forces that are all over the place, instead of following to whatever war they point you. Let's go over now. These are the Christians. Chapter 17, John. These words spake Jesus, and lifted up his eyes to heaven, and said, Father, the hour is come. Glorify thy Son, that thy Son also may glorify thee, as thou hast given him power over all flesh, that he should give eternal life to as many as thou hast given him. See, you have this other option by obeying God. You have the option of going to eternal paradise, or you have this other option that of the little demon of Walt Disney and sex change operations and multiple sex partners. This is the life eternal, that they might know thee, the only true God, and Jesus Christ, whom thou hast sent. I have glorified thee on the earth. I have finished the work which thou gavest me to do. And now, O Father, glorify thou me with thine own self, with the glory which I had with thee before the world was. I have manifested thy name unto the men which thou gavest me out of the world. Thine they were, and thou gavest them me, and they have kept thy word. Now they have known that all things whatsoever thou hast given me are of thee. For I have given unto them the words which thou gavest me, and they have received them, and have known them. Surely that I came out from thee, and they have believed that thou didst send me. This is the truth. This is the light of the truth. I pray for them. I pray not for the world, but for them, which thou hast given me, for they are thine, and all mine are thine, and thine are mine, and I am glorified in them. And now I am no more in the world, but these are in the world, and I come to thee, Holy Father, whom thou hast given me, that they may be one, so we are. While I was with them in the world, I kept them in thy name. Those that thou gavest me, I have kept, and none of them is lost, but the son of perdition, that the scripture might be fulfilled. And now I come to thee, and these things I speak in the world, that they might have my joy fulfilled in themselves. I have given them thy word, and the world hath hated them, because they are not of the world, even as I am not of the world. I pray not that thou shouldst take them out of the world, but that thou shouldst keep them from the evil. They are not of the world, even as I am not of the world. Sanctify them through thy truth. Thy word is truth. The word is truth. You don't have to go to any of this other stuff. You don't have to go to these holy madmen. You don't have to go to these frauds. You don't have to go to these people who promise you paradise and you end up as an assassin, or you end up a mafiosi, or you end up on the needle, or you end up with whatever kind of drugs to get high. You don't need any of that. God bless you all. I'm going to pray on my own to God. Prayer to the Father, pray through the Holy Spirit, pray to Jesus Christ. This stuff is absolute madness. There's nothing holy about this madness. This is not holy madness, it's unholy madness. All of these snake gods and snake religions and serpent. Find the serpents and the dragons, and you know what you're looking at. Just look at the symbols and stay away from it. What good does it bring? It brings no fruit but evil.